We are recording and we are live on 79.
Great. So this is the Town of New Canaan Town Council special meeting for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. It is 7:02 p.m. and this is a virtual meeting. And the meeting ID is 925-167-1532. And if you're watching on channel 79, you can dial in to our Zoom meeting. Again, 925-167-1532. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So all rise and let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, take your seats. Rich Townsend, would you like to take the roll?
Yeah, certainly. Robin Bates Mason.
Here.
Tom Butterworth.
Here.
Liz Donovan.
Here.
John Engel.
Here.
Sven England.
Here.
Mark Jemsky. Here. Steve Carl. Oh, Steve Carl. Mike Morrow.
Here.
Maria Naughton.
Here.
Christina Ross. Ooh, Rich Townsend. Here. Penny Young.
Here.
We've got 10 out of 12. We've got a quorum.
Excellent. The meeting is called to order. The first order of business is a special appropriation. Do I have a motion to approve a special appropriation as recommended by the Board of Finance in the amount of $1,977,731 in fiscal year 21 to be transferred into the Board of Education Health Internal Service Fund? The funding will come from unspent fiscal year 21 funds and or use of the general fund balance during fiscal year 22, and upon completion of the fiscal year 21 independent audit, the Board of Finance will review the actual fiscal year 21 ending balance of the Board of Education Health Internal Service Fund and make appropriate adjustment to the disbursement, up or down, of the $8,942,809 transfers into the Board of Education Health Internal Service Fund as approved in the fiscal year 22 budget. Do I have a motion? I need a motion. I see Thomas Butterworth. Do I have a second? Robin? Okay. Do we have any discussion? Linda, is there a discussion? Anything else we need to know?
Nope.
Okay. Does anybody want to say anything whatsoever? Including Dr. Lutzy or Joanne Keating, since they graciously have joined our meeting.
Knowing you're pressed for time, I'll simply say hello and thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lutzy. Thank you, Dr. Lutzy, and thank you, Katrina, for attending, and Joanne. Excellent. Okay. If there's no further discussion, Christina, let the record reflect that Christina Ross has joined the meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll be here for the vote. And Christina, we have a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded to approve this special appropriation. All in favor, raise your hand. All right. I see John Engel, Rich Townsend, Sven England, Penny Young, Maria makes 5, Mark makes 6, Robin makes 7, Tom makes 8, Liz makes 9, and Christina makes 10. So it passes unanimously. The appropriation is passed. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And next, and the only other item on our agenda is the Waveney Park Conservancy. It's an overview of.
John, that should be 11. You didn't count yourself. Isn't the only person missing Steve Carl?
Correct. I have 11. Yep.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. The only other item on the agenda is Waveney Park Conservancy, and we have an overview of the new 5-year plan for Waveney Park presented by Carolyn Garrity. And the mic is yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. As you know, my name is Caroline Garrity, and I'm the chairman of the Waveney Park Conservancy. It is a pleasure to be here with you this evening, and thank you for having me to present our new 5-year plan for our beloved Waveney Park. Also on the call is one, possibly two, of my very dedicated board members, Chris Shipper and Stephen Beschenstein, who is also our esteemed treasurer. I believe it has been a year since I gave you all an update on what the Waveney Park Conservancy has been accomplishing at the park. As I'm sure you have seen for yourselves or read about, we have had huge increases in visitors to the park this past year. And I believe this is not just because of COVID, but because we have worked for over 6 years to bring order and beauty to the 130 acres of open space surrounding Waveney House. Before I begin the presentation of the 5-year master plan, I just wanted to talk briefly about our ongoing projects that the board and I are diligently working on. As I hope you have visited the park since last fall, we have installed beautiful new plantings in the forecourt of Waveney House, as well as irrigation systems for the plantings and the entire front lawn. In addition, we regraded the planting beds, installed a new boxwood and white rose bed in front of the porte-cochere, and replaced all the slate walkways. We will hopefully be concluding the project later this spring or early summer. Once the town finishes building the new handicap ramp on the western side of the house, which is under construction now, we will landscape that area and install the new house lighting. The installation of 2 laser trees might take until this fall, as mature tree supply and transportation has been stalled by COVID. We hope you will agree that the forecourt and house foundation plantings are a vast improvement and will be enjoyed by all who visit the park. Walking down to the Anderson Pond, which has become a focal point of the park, as we discussed a few before the meeting started, we will be planting beginning in late May an enhanced plan of native shrubs, perennials, and wetland ground covers. Our plan will create more visual interest and color year-round and better define pedestrian walkways. We received a very generous gift from the Anderson Family Fund to augment the plantings, and the entire cost will be paid by the Conservancy. Beyond the pond, the Gentium Meadow was seeded with wildflowers in late fall and should be blooming this summer. The Gentium Foundation has been extremely generous to us and has continued their philanthropic efforts towards making the meadow a serene environment for bird watchers, naturalists, and most importantly, the wildlife. Now for the master plan. We were thrilled to have the very talented Catherine Herman of Catherine Herman Designs, located on Elm Street in New Canaan, develop a 5-year master plan of new projects for Waveney. To start with, she suggested we obtain, and can we go to the next slide, please, Tucker? She suggested we obtain an aerial survey of Waveney Park, which had never been done before. This is a very useful tool, as one can see all the waterways, elevations, and an overhead view of the park. This overhead view on the left, and on the right hand is on the right hand legend here, you can see the 8 main projects we hope to focus on, including A, the South Avenue entrance, B, the entry drive and trail, C, the parking and utility area, D, the house and adjacent gardens, E, outbuildings and adjacent areas, F, the meadow fields, G, the woodland trails, and H, the Lapham Road entrance. Next slide, please. The South Avenue entrance. We would design a new native planting plan. Some examples of the shrubs and ground covers are seen here in the photos on the right. to improve, while at the same time reducing the amount of signage, and add lighting and clarify and separate modes of circulation, distinguishing the pedestrian trail in a clearer way. You will see an example here in the picture on the right of a suggested new style of signage, similar to what they have at Kaikut, the Rockefeller Estate in Tarrytown, New York. Next slide, please. The entry drive and trail. For the woodlands along the curving entry driveway, we would first remove the invasives and then transform and beautify this area with an understory of native plants. This screening would also separate visitors walking on the trails from the car traffic. We would like to improve the signage along the trail and educate visitors about native plants and the trails in the park. Next slide, please. The parking and utility area. In this parking area, which you see when you first come up the hill on the drive, there are damaged and mature trees, which we would remove and then add new mature trees and understory plantings so as to separate the parking areas. An example of this is in the lower middle photo with the white amelanchier trees. Also, we hope to redesign the dumpster area near the house and have already been in discussion with Catherine Herman and the Public Works Department about this, as it is definitely ready for improvement. Next slide, please. The house and adjacent gardens. First, there would be selective removal of mature trees and the removal of existing Japanese maples along the peony walk, along with removal of invasives behind the pond. For the planting design, we would add new mature trees, replant the upper and lower rear terrace plantings to match the front of the house design, add additional peonies and another perennial to the peony walk, hopefully making it look like the beautiful picture in the bottom middle with the peonies and nepeta, which is the purple flower. And a planting design to improve the visual connection down to the pond. We have exciting news that the New Canaan Garden Club would like to partner with us on the Peony Walk redesign to be completed by the spring of 2022 in honor of Frederick Law Olmstead's 200th birthday, which will be on April 26, 2022. The national celebration is called Olmstead 200. Next slide, please. The outbuildings and adjacent landscape. The photo on the left is an aerial view of the Powerhouse Theater and the parking lot next to the walled garden. In this area, we would remove existing overgrown plantings first, and then we would restore the plantings around the Powerhouse Theater. Also, we have already planted the restored retaining wall just below the parking lot with no-mow fescue, a type of grass that doesn't need to be cut. And we would add native pollinator plants to this area. Also, the town hopes to restore the potting shed, which is the little square building you see next to the parking lot there, and right sort of in the middle of the picture. They'd like to restore that into a public restroom for park visitors. We would plant around this when completed, perhaps next summer or the summer after. Meadows and next slide, please. Meadows and Fields. This is the area beyond the back terrace of the house, with selective removal of mature trees and then the addition of new mature trees. We would complete this project. Changing the mow pattern of grass would help to reinforce the major axes, as you can see in the example photo from the Storm King Arts Center in upstate New York, which is in the middle right photograph. Incorporating new signage as seen in the photos on the bottom, and improving with additional benches would also help the area. Next slide, please. The Woodland Trails. A strong initiative in the upcoming years would be to remove the chain link fence along the Merritt Parkway Trail and install all new native woodland plantings as seen in the middle photo here, and also possibly build a berm, which is shown with the diagram, or planting barriers to block the noise and visual impact of the traffic. The masonry mentioned, which includes the restoration of the stone wall along Lapham Road, will be worked on this May and June as we host 4 New Canaan senior high schoolers as interns for the 3 weeks. They will spend 1 week working with master stonemason Greg Falacci, learning how to build these beautiful stone walls. And this is the area where they will be working. Also noted here is an addition of pedestrian access opposite Conrad Road off of South Avenue. If you look at the aerial photo on the left, it's almost over to the right-hand side there. We would also improve signage to match the south, of course, more educational and directional signage in this woodland area would be beneficial as well. Next slide, please. The Lapham Road entrance. We would imagine a new planting design of native woodland plantings to match the South Avenue entrance. We would also improve signage to match the South Avenue entrance and add similar lighting. Next slide, please. Sculpture. We would like to include varying styles of outdoor sculpture in the park with different artists represented. One of our board members, Ariane Kolb, worked to have the large bird's nest sculpture a few years ago by the walled garden and is currently working on other ideas. Also, again, we want to have all our furnishings and signage to be consistent, of high quality, and in keeping with the house and grounds. Next slide, please. This shows how Waveney is now part of a green link system where one can walk, run, or bike from within the park up to Bristow Bird Sanctuary, then continue on to Mead Park, Irwin Park, across over to the Nature Center, back into town, and then back down South Avenue and into Waveney. It would be an ambitious walk to say the least, but it is exciting that the parks are now connected. So this is a broad overview of what the Conservancy's board feels is the direction we want to take over the next 5 years. Of course, none of this would be possible without our growing list of wonderful donors and the town's support as well. Thank you for your time and for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Good job. Carolyn, can you say a little bit more about funding?
Well, we have our 2 major donors have been the Anderson family and the Genium Foundation. And then we did a Christmas mailer, and we did a mailer last June, and we're about to do another mailer, and that's how we receive donations. We haven't had any fundraiser, obviously because of COVID. So
you think these various vehicles will give you the funds to implement your 5-year plan as according to the schedule you've laid out?
Well, I think we will have to have a fundraiser probably, yes. But otherwise, I think we have incredible support, and the town helps as well. So I think we're okay.
So we'll give you Tiger and we'll be even, right?
How has the Waveney changed in the last year or so, its use? I would say, aside from COVID, causing a lot more people to get out and walking the trails.
Mhm.
And we talked earlier about the renewed interest in the pond,
Mhm.
pond being a focal point, a lot of traffic around the pond.
Mhm.
It just seems to me that, and now we're also planning a skating rink in Waveney. It just seems that we're adding more all the time, and its use is changing, and people are making, are discovering parts of the park that they never discovered before. So I'm glad you're addressing all 8 areas. They're all important, not just the areas around Waveney House.
Yeah, so well,
but-
I think you all know that we focus on everything south of the road that goes through the park. So the area where they want to build the skating rink, that is not our area. That's the town manages that. But yes, I talked to John earlier about this survey, not survey, it was a trail usage report that was done by an organization called WestCog, which stands for the Western Connecticut Council of Governments. And they wanted to find out how many people were walking the trails. And they asked if they could set up a camera on the Merritt Parkway Trail. And this was not through us, this was through the Parks Department, I think. And so from last October 23rd through November 20th, they set up the camera, and the camera records every person that goes by. And on the average weekend count during this period, so we're not talking about June and July and August when it was probably twice as much, I don't know. But there were on average 775 people on a Saturday and 750 people on Sundays going by that camera. And during the first week of October 19th, more than 5,000 people walked by the camera. So that is our only way of measuring at this point. I don't know. I don't know how you exactly measure. It's difficult, but that I thought that was an astounding figure.
Yeah, I do too. I'm glad you brought it up. I just think that we have to realize that while it's always been a jewel, and we're starting to invest big money in the mansion, and the Waveney Conservancy is organizing this effort and raising big money to restore the grounds. The use has gone right up with it, with this investment. And I just think that's great that the people have responded. We haven't put all this money and effort and time into something and not gotten a payback. We're getting
Well, it's
really
just like Central Park, the same sort of thing. You know, we are a public-private partnership, just like the Central Park Conservancy, and look what they've done there. It's just amazing. So this is something for us to look up to. Chris,
And-
you want to say something? I don't know.
I just wanted to mention on that trail, it's basically a counter system. And I believe that the report indicated that the Waveney Trail might have been the heaviest used park trail in southern Fairfield County. And so we have to always remember that Waveney is not just a New Canaan, it's a great New Canaan asset, but it actually serves, our neighbors as well. So we estimate at least around a third of the visitation comes from out of New Canaan. So we do serve a broader public. As a conservancy, we're always trying to figure out how we reach out to our New Canaan base, but also how to expand to a broader public base.
So since you're here and you've got a foot in both camps, both Bristow Bird Sanctuary and Waveney, what's the difference to the uninitiated? What's the difference between Bristow Bird Sanctuary and the efforts of restoration there versus the Waveney Conservancy efforts up at Waveney?
Well, I would venture to say you'll see some parallels. People take their learnings with them. And in Waveney, the great experience on the whole pond restoration was carried over to a certain degree at Bristow. I think one of the differences is Bristow has to be focused as a bird sanctuary and as a native plant sanctuary or development. So it is going to be smaller. It can't handle the crowd, and it does not have the access or parking of the other parks. But the lessons learned of invasive plant management, native plant installations, low maintenance programs, if you go in, are all shared experiences. And I think in a way, and Caroline has been great at this, is that as we learn about planting, so does the Parks Department. So does the recreation department, that we're sharing information about how you can improve the grounds through better trails, through better plantings, through better tree management. And I think that's a positive sharing. And I think, we're blessed to have such a beautiful town and such great climate, four-season color and what have you. And we feel like we're in partnership with the town, with the DPW, in trying to improve the look of the town and the natural experience that people have when they're out walking.
Carolyn, you mentioned earlier something about a Frederick Law Olmstead anniversary coming up.
Yes. The most recent president of the Garden Club of America is spearheading this whole celebration. They've already started. I've been on a few Zoom calls, and they made a wonderful movie about Frederick Law Olmstead. But they have asked each club in the Garden Club of America, which is 200 clubs, to recognize Frederick Law Olmstead by either, designing a garden, doing something in their towns, planting a garden, I don't know. You can do whatever you would like. So, this just seemed like a no-brainer that the New Canaan Garden Club would want to partner with us, and they already do so much with the wall garden and the parterre. They really take care of the parterre garden for us beautifully, and they take care of the peony walk as well. So that's going to be very exciting. And I mean, this is an Olmsted Brothers Park, not Frederick Law Olmsted Park, but still, it's, we're pretty lucky to have that.
That's great. Anybody else have a question about the peony walk or any of the questions on the 5-year plan?
That's
Otherwise-
great, Carolyn. I think it really is such an enhancement to the park, and all of your efforts in the club and the Conservancy efforts are fabulous for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful plan. It's a nice balance of native plants, low maintenance, as Chris Shipper mentioned. We're looking for something that's both a tribute to the Olmsted Brothers designs, but not so difficult that we can't manage it. So I think this strikes a really nice balance, that it's beautiful to look at. It's low maintenance. It's an homage to the original designers. It's a restoration of the pond and the trails that we've been enjoying and using so much this past year.
Yes,
So it's a really nice.
You also have to realize it is a public park now. It's no longer someone's home, and we have to choose low maintenance, deer resistant plantings, and that's just the nature of it now. But I still think it looks very beautiful most of the time, even in the winter. And we had so many people sledding there this winter, which was fabulous. So I don't know if any of you went over to see that. It's quite a sight. And
But it's not just a public park. I mean, it's actually a photo opportunity for all those brides. It's not like you can just plant grass and boxwoods and be done with it, or just plant native plants and be done with it. There's an expectation, I think, on the behalf of brides or the public, or that there's going to be some focal points and some really beautiful flower gardens, like you say, the peony walk. So I think there's just such a fantastic variety of uses and variety of gardens in the park. Just awesome. So thank you very much. If there's nothing further, any other thank yous, then I guess we can take a motion to adjourn. Anyone? Either? Christina, go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second. Oh, there's Mike. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We
Thank
are
you.
adjourned.
good night.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.